I'm surrounded by rolling hills, beautiful grasslands, and livestock of just about every variety. You'd think that I was in Xinjiang or Inner Mongolia, but, well, I'm not. I'm in Gannan, the southern part of Gansu, home to the Tibetan ethnic minority. Welcome to Travelogue. I'm Michelle.
Gannan Tibetan Autonomous Prefecture is located in the southwestern part of Gansu Province. Covering an area of 45,000 square kilometers, it has a population that is 51% Tibetan, 41% Han Chinese, and other ethnic groups. Since the Tibetan ethnic minority group makes up the majority of the population here, you'll find a lot of Tibetan influences. All in all, it's a good place to visit to get a taste of Tibetan culture without having to endure the high altitudes of Tibet itself. But that said, it's still pretty high up here. On average, it's about 3,000 meters above sea level. Most people feel a shortness of breath or experience some dizziness, but it usually passes in a day or two. The local opinion, though, is that there's no such thing as altitude sickness. People just get anxious when they hear about it, and that's what makes them sick. Either way, do take the necessary precautions. You know, better safe than sorry. There are several ways of getting to Gannan. We flew from Beijing to Langzhou, the capital of Gansu Province, before driving to the first stop on our journey, Shahe County. Shahe gets its name from the Daxia River, a tributary of the Yellow River. It's a rural, mountainous area where the locals rely on a pastoral existence to sustain their livelihood. On the drive over, we passed many herds of yaks and other livestock. Now, I'd never seen a yak till then, but I certainly got my fill during the 4-hour drive. Shahe is a small town bordering Qinghai province. This once rural area has recently become a tourist destination, mostly attracting backpackers and independent travelers. Most of them come to visit the Labrang Monastery, one of the largest and most famous Tibetan Buddhist monasteries outside of Tibet itself. It's a huge place that dominates the northern area of Shahe. The monastery is one of the 6 great monasteries of the Geluk, or Yellow Hat school of Tibetan Buddhism. In fact, it was the last of the 6 schools to be built. Founded in 1709 by Ngagawang Sundru, the first reincarnated Buddhist teacher, Labrang was one of the largest monastic universities in the Buddhist world. In its heyday, it was home to several thousand monks spread across 6 colleges. Today, however, there are only about 500 monks studying here. At Tibetan monasteries, you'll find these prayer wheels. And here at the Labrang Monastery, as early as 3 or 4 in the morning, you'll find people here going around this compound in a clockwise motion, spinning these wheels. And there are about 1,500 of them here. And when they spin these wheels, they'll be praying for, goodwill and good towards humanity and mankind. There's something almost hypnotic about watching these devout Buddhists turn wheel after wheel while they pray. A few of them did look up to watch us at work, but they quickly lost interest and resumed their prayers. I almost felt guilty for breaking their concentration, even though it was only for a moment. But I soon realized we were just a minor distraction. Their belief was far too powerful. It takes more than just habit and determination to come here every day, walk the compound, and turn the 1,500 prayer wheels. I think it takes genuine spiritual devotion, something I find truly admirable. Labrang Monastery is one of the largest Tibetan Buddhist monasteries in the world, and it has the most extensive collection of Buddhist scriptures of all of them. The 6 colleges at the Labrang Monastery are the Sutra and Debate College, also known as the Philosophy College, the Medical College, the Upper and Lower Tantra Colleges, the Kalachakra College, and the Havira College. Monks are either assigned to a college or they choose one for themselves, according to their special interests. Of course, it's better if they choose, since their study can last an entire lifetime. And how long do monks usually study for? I mean, are there different sections or?
Yeah, actually here are different 6 colleges, different sects and study for years,
Yeah.
And most of the probably section and the college and the philosophy, but here most of the monks study philosophy. The philosophy has certain classes, one class for 1 year.
And how many years do they have? How many years are there?
Many years. But I wanted to finish in the classes. The monks agreed to take the exam to this name is called the Dorumbas and Aramjambat, the highest positions.
That's the highest level?
Yeah, highest level.
And how long would it take to get to the highest level?
I think this one is almost 25 and 30 years they're studying.
That's a lifetime of studying.
It's just a whole life to study that kind of do that.
Yeah.
Can't pass that exams. It's too difficult. Just here, philosophy has about 700 marks. That philosophy, just 2 marks 1 year do that. Yeah, can pass that exam.
Do you see those rooms up there in the mountains? They're called Chikam. And every year on special days, monks below the age of 25 from the Tantra College go there to pray and to read the Buddhist scriptures and, meditate. And they'll go basically before sunrise. They'll have a little bit of lunch at noon, and then they'll go home again at sunset and repeat that. Every day, the monks will have morning and afternoon classes. In each of the 6 colleges, there are 13 levels of education. Now, once a student reaches the 12th level, he takes part in one of the 2 open debates that are held annually. At the end of it, only one person will go on to the 13th level. That is, after considerable questioning and scrutiny by his fellow students and judges. Sometimes, if the judges aren't convinced, no one will be deemed to have passed the debate. But, see, here's the catch. A monk can only undergo this examination once in his lifetime, so anyone who participates and doesn't pass has to remain at the 12th level or restart their education from scratch again at another college. If you thought school exams were difficult, try dedicating an entire lifetime of study for just one opportunity.
Every morning at around 11, tourists can come to the Lavram Monastery to listen to the afternoon prayers. But the only people allowed inside those halls are monks and selected donors for the day. So you'll see all the tourists up there congregated by the halls outside just listening to the prayers. One thing you have to remember though is when you go, no cameras are allowed, so don't try to sneak any photos in.
Tibetan people are extremely devout and will make regular visits to the monastery to pray for their loved ones. One such occasion is when a relative leaves home. The entire family will visit the monastery, bringing with them yak butter for lighting candles and long pieces of silk called hara to pray for a safe journey. Apparently, you need to present your haras to the monastery before you pay homage before the statues of the Buddha, because presenting a hara, be it to a monastery or as a welcoming gift to a guest, is a sign of purity, respect, and loyalty. At the Lavram Monastery, you'll find a special room dedicated to one of the most unique forms of Tibetan art, yak butter sculptures. Obviously, these models can only be made during winter when the butter is solid. Every year, the 6 colleges compete to make a yak butter sculpture that will be put on display. Because of its delicate nature, the sculpture usually only lasts about 6 months. When it gets too hot, the yak butter will be allowed to melt so that it can be used again in next year's competition. Aside from yak butter sculptures, another well-known art form, perhaps the most famous in Tibetan culture, is the tanka. This is a painting or embroidered banner depicting Tibetan Buddhist iconography, which you'll find hanging at monasteries and family altars. It's an ancient art form dating back to the late 13th century. Nowadays, even a small tanka can cost tens of thousands of RMB, and the value comes from the work put into the painting. Everything is handmade, from the canvas to the paint. The canvas is made from cotton or silk, with each layer tempered with an herb and glue solution, and the paints on their own are worth quite a pretty penny because they're made of precious stones and gold that have been grinded up. I'd heard of tankas before, but I had yet to see one, so it was a good thing that I didn't have to go far, because right next door to the Labrang Monastery is a tanka art center run by a Tibetan monk.
简单的介绍的话，它是就是面部上面面部上面喷雾一样的一些画出来的一个建筑画，很多那个题材是什么题材都有，主要是佛菩萨佛像为主的这样的一个画，也是一个藏民族的一个怎么说呢，一个传统的一个特殊的这样的一个画。现在的话就是国画、油画、唐卡两个是世界上很有名声的。完成一个唐卡的话，这种大小的话5个月，做工很细致，很慢工。
你现在教授你多少学生？
我现在整个甘肃四川青海的话，我教过学生也100多吧，差不多。但是这里的话不多，这里整个这里学的人呢，这里我们唐卡中心的话，目前我培养出来的5、6个老师，10几个学生这样的，以后慢慢变成一个私立唐卡艺术的那样的一个学院，我有这样的愿望。
Shirubu has over 100 students studying the art of tanka making under his tutorage. His only requirement when accepting a student is that he or she has a keen and dedicated interest in learning the craft. His students vary in age, backgrounds, and ethnic groups, and they travel from across China just to learn from him. The tanka is an ancient art form, and it's reassuring to see that it's being continued by this generation of students. While most people appreciate tankas for their aesthetic value, I bumped into a couple of collectors who told me that tankas are intended to serve as a record of and a guide for contemplation. So Buddhists will never say that they're buying tankas. Rather, they're inviting them home with them. Now, for those of you who are not Buddhists, a tanka is still a beautiful piece of art to have at home, and a valuable one too, thanks to the paints, which are made to last so that there won't be any fading for at least 100 years. While I'm not Buddhist, I've always had great respect for its philosophical and spiritual teachings. A couple years ago, I spent some time in Myanmar, where I got to understand a little bit more about the teachings of Buddhism and how the monks live. I'm reminded of it again here as I watch the monks from the nearby Labrang Monastery walking about town. And I'm humbled by the dedication that they have to their faith and the simple lives they've chosen to lead.
GANNAN is known as a backpacker's haven, so you'll find many hostels and small hotels here. The good thing about that is that not only is it reasonably cheap, well, it also has a local flavor.
If you're the kind of person who needs their creature comforts and can't stay anywhere with fewer than 5 stars, you may want to think twice about visiting Shaha. But if you're up for a challenge and don't mind sacrificing a little comfort in order to experience real beauty and perhaps gain a little self-awareness and spiritual help at the Labrang Monastery, definitely come. The road here isn't a smooth one, and while the accommodations aren't always shabby, it definitely won't feel anything like home. Then again, isn't that the point of traveling?
How many days have you guys been here?
You mean in this
area? Yeah.
Just one night.
Just one night. What do you think is the best thing you've seen here?
The monastery is quite good.
Yeah, the monastery.
Yeah. And then the Tibetan is also very friendly and helpful.
Right. Yeah. So, when did you arrive? Yesterday?
Yesterday, yeah, in the afternoon.
Okay. Where are you going after this?
We will go to Langmu Si. And then we will stay 2 or 3 nights maybe. We do some trekking there.
Yeah? Are you into hiking and stuff?
Yes.
Oh, yeah? Is that why you're here?
Less than a 20-minute drive away from Shaha, beside the Daxia River, you'll find the Sangha grasslands, named after the Sangha flowers that bloom here in summer and form a natural carpet over the terrain. This is the place to visit if you want to experience nomadic Tibetan life, horse riding, living with a local family, and tasting traditional Tibetan foods such as yak butter tea, mutton, and tampa, which is the traditional Tibetan staple food made from roasted highland barley flour. As beautiful as the grasslands are, though, I still recommend venturing to the lesser-known areas for a more authentic experience. Over the winter, temperatures here can drop to as low as -20 degrees Celsius. So in spring, during Xianglong Festival, entire Tibetan villages will pack their bags and head to the distant forest to stock up on wood for the coming winter. They'll pitch their tents on different areas of grasslands for 3 or 4 days at a time. They'll work at gathering the wood during the day and celebrate at night, enjoying their time amongst friends and families in the great outdoors before moving on to another grassland. It's a festival with a pragmatic element because it provides the essentials for getting through the winter. But more importantly, it brings families and friends together for some quality time. Now, perhaps us urbanites should take a page out of their book. From the Sangha grasslands in Shaha, we travel south towards the capital of Gannan, Hezhuo. It's an hour-and-a-half drive to the small town that was once the historical business center for Tibetans and Han Chinese. Now, most tourists don't come here to visit the capital. Instead, they come for the Hezhuo Monastery and the monastery's famous Milarepa Tower. I did a little research beforehand, and so I can tell you that the Milarepa Tower is known to the locals as the Milarepa Buddha Pavilion and is a part of the Hezhuo Monastery. Built in the Qing dynasty, the tower has a history of over 200 years, although the original building was burnt down during the 1960s. The present tower dates from the late 1980s and stands at over 40 meters high. Now, it's a shaky climb up the 9 stories to the top, but I've heard that if you're game, you'll be rewarded with a fine view of the city.
Truth be told, Hezhuo is a very small town, and there's not very much to see here. But there is one stop that you have to make if you pass by. It's the Mirabelli Buddha Pavilion, and it's a very important part of Tibetan Buddhism and a really great site.
The Milarepa Tower is named after one of Tibet's most famous sons, a monk who lived in the 11th century. Jetsun Milarepa's story is a classic tale of good to evil to good again. Now, he was born into an affluent family, but after his father died, his aunt and uncle claimed the inheritance, leaving the rest of the family penniless. Urged by his mother, he left home to study sorcery. After years of delving in black magic, he repented his mistakes and dedicated the rest of his life to studying and teaching Buddhism. Although there are many legends and myths surrounding his life, he's most famous for his writings, which are widely known as the Songs of Milarepa. As teachings, they are sung instead of the usual practice of being chanted. You can visit Gannan all year round, but the best time to come is from June to August. It's then that the grasslands are in their full glory, providing a spectacular backdrop to your travels. I'm not sure if you're the kind of person that's going to start oohing and ahhing about fields of flowers, but you have to admit this is pretty amazing. In the southern parts of China, the rapeseed flower usually blooms around March, but up here in Gannan, even in July, it's still pretty cool, so this is just about the right season for it. Hezhou can be considered the midpoint between two areas where the ethnic Tibetans lead two very different traditional lifestyles. You'll find that the Tibetan families living in the north of Hezhou are stock breeders, while those in the south are farmers. As we leave Hezhou heading south, the scenery begins to change, and we see families farming. This is really different from the families we've seen up north, who move several times a year, packing up their homes and leading their animals on to greener pastures. It's definitely not an easy life, but it's traditional, and it's the way these people have lived for generations. The men herd the animals, and the women take care of the household. From Hezhou, we traveled south to a place known as the Switzerland of the East. I won't reveal where we're going just yet. You'll have to wait. But on our way there, we passed Gahai Lake, a beautiful, untouched piece of nature where the birds fly low, unafraid of the people snapping pictures by the lakeside. It's a popular stop for photographers, although there isn't actually an official entrance to the area. Getting in involves climbing under a fence or two, but as long as you leave without disturbing the natural surroundings, no one will stop you from getting close to the water's edge. The birds tend to be very trusting here. Maybe they know that it's against Buddhist teachings to harm animals. To be honest, I think there's a good chance of you getting hurt if you were to ever try and catch something here. So don't even think about it.
From Shahe to Hezhou and now at Gaihe Lake, we've experienced some pretty different scenery, not to mention climate changes. But it's all been spectacular, and that's exactly why people love Gannan so much. Thanks for watching Travelogue. I'm Michelle Lean. I'll see you next time, but in the meantime, keep those bags packed.
Now, I thought the weather in Melbourne was fickle, but Gannan has given my Australian home city quite a run for its money. After a night in Machi, we pass Gahai Lake once again, and this time we're welcomed by clear blue skies. Yesterday, the lingering fog made the Gahai Lake area feel serene and a little mysterious, but today the water is sparkling and shining, inviting the passerbys to take a dip. This says a lot about Gannan, that you can come here several times and see the same familiar landscapes, and yet always get a new and different experience out of it. In the next episode, we'll continue our travels in Gannan with a trip to a little town tucked away in a valley, which is known mostly to backpackers and adventure-seeking travelers. I won't reveal the town's name, but here's a clue. Its nickname is the Switzerland of the East. We'll also be experiencing more of the culture of the Tibetan ethnic group in Gannan and picking up some fashion tips and a dance step or two from some new friends. See you then.